Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to another of my end of year top 10 lists. We've already had my top 10 favourite PlayStation games of 2019 and today we have my top 10 most disappointing films of 2019. Now, many that you will see on this list, some other channels will probably have them in their top 10 worst films of 2019. However, this channel, I don't just review cinema releases, I review quite a lot of low budget films and some direct to DVD films, all that kind of stuff, and streaming films. So there's quite a wide variety of films on here that I personally, I was either really looking forward to and then ended up being quite disappointed with them, or they were just a real disappointment regardless, really. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoy the list. I'd love to know what your thoughts are in the comments, so thank you. So as usual, there are some films that didn't just quite make my top 10, but I thought I would give them a mention because I was quite disappointed by all three of these films that you see in front of you. The first one is The Curse of La Llorona. Now, I'm not saying I was expecting anything special with this film because there are quite a few films in the Conjuring universe that are nothing special at all, and this unfortunately is one of them. It's a fairly bog standard horror film and it's only watchable at best. Doom Annihilation was a film I was hoping was going to be a lot of cheesy fun, but it was very generic, exactly what you expected from a Doom film. Now that could either be a good thing or a bad thing, but I was hoping for a little bit more. And the third film is I Trapped the Devil, a low budget indie horror film. And when I saw the trailer for this, I thought it looked fantastic. It looked really original and very, very scary, but in actual fact the end product was pretty dull and pretty generic. So coming in at number 10 is the Liam Neeson action thriller Cold Pursuit that was released at the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, it's a fairly dull, generic Liam Neeson film, and I think it's probably his worst film for a few years. It's just fairly dull as dishwater. The action's nothing special at all. I thought from the trailers that this was going to be quite a fun film. It looked like it was going to be quite comedic, and to be honest, it wasn't. The laughs just didn't work for me. I could appreciate they tried to do something a little bit different here, but in actual fact it kind of failed on most levels, and I was certainly very disappointed with it. Coming in at number 9, this might be quite controversial to some people, but it's Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't think this is a bad film in any way, shape or form, but I'm such a big fan of his films. His last 3 films previous to this I think were perfection almost, and I thought he'd peaked massively, and I was probably right because I think this is a step down from quality in regards to Quentin Tarantino. If you watch my full review, I had a few issues with the film. I wasn't keen on the story, I wasn't keen on how certain things were portrayed in the film, and I thought it was quite self-indulgent from Quentin Tarantino's part, but that's not to say it's not pretty slick and certainly well made. Coming in at number 8, Zombieland Double Tap. Again, this isn't a bad film. This is basically the first film remade. It's the first film repackaged and regurgitated out in the cinema. It offered nothing different at all for me. It was just really, really rinse and repeat from the first film, and there was nothing here that made it stand out at all. Even the chemistry I don't think was the same as the first film. That spark wasn't there. It's almost like some of the cast weren't as invested as perhaps they should have been. But ultimately it's not a bad film, but it's just a bit of a disappointment. Coming in at number 7 is the comedy Good Boys, the Seth Rogen comedy about the 3 boys who've got potty mouths, and the trailer was easily the best thing about this film. If you saw the trailer, it promised much, but in actual fact it was one of those trailers where if you'd seen that trailer, you've basically seen the film, because the film didn't offer any more laughs than what the trailers did. I thought it was a pretty generic paint by numbers comedy. We tried to have some gross out humour, and essentially in many ways it was a remake of Superbad, which I commented on my review when I reviewed it earlier this year. Not a bad film, not a terrible film. I was just disappointed with it. Coming in at number 6, the second Conjuring universe film on this list, Annabelle Comes Home. I was hoping for a better film because Annabelle Creation, the second film in the Annabelle series, was a very, very effective horror film, and I was just hoping that we were going to get something a bit better. The potential here for a good Annabelle film, I think, is there. This was really hard to watch at times. It was just, again, paint by numbers horror film with predictable scares, cheap jump scares, and it just didn't work on many levels. So unfortunately I was very let down by this one. Coming in at number 5, Gemini Man. Now, when I saw this at the cinema, I was actually reasonably entertained with the film, and I was reasonably kind in my review. But on reflection, it's one of those films that when you think about afterwards, you think actually it was pretty lazily done. And apart from some of the effects, obviously the de-aging of Will Smith for the most part looked really, really good. And I think the action for the most part was effectively done. It was just a pretty dull story, and you've seen it all before, you've seen it done better, predictable as hell, and at the end really quite painfully average, so I was certainly let down. Coming in at number 4, The Dead Don't Die. Mainly due to the idea of this film and the cast involved. You've got Bill Murray, you've got Adam Driver, you've got Danny Glover, you've got Iggy Pop, you've got Carol Kane, Tom Waits, Selena Gomez, Tilda Swinton. Incredible cast. Really, really dull film. If you want to watch a zombie film and when it's finished just end up scratching your head as if to say, what have I just watched? It's almost like they thought they were making a piece of art or something, and you're not. You're making a zombie film. Please make it fun. And they just didn't make it fun. The laughs didn't work, they didn't hit, and it was dull for the most part. Very disappointing. Coming in at number 3, Men in Black International. I think, to be fair, many people predicted that this was going to be the film it actually turned out to be, and it turned out to be a fairly average film for the most part. It was basically like all the other Men in Black films rolled into this one. It's just they didn't do anything new, they didn't do anything different with the franchise. I don't think the leads really work. Chris Hemsworth and Tessa and Liam Neeson again. He's not had a great year. Just everything about this film, it was just a bit painfully average. Coming in at number 2, Captive State. A political alien invasion movie. This film was just dull as dishwater. What on earth were they doing with this film? How to make an alien invasion film? Really boring. And that's his film, basically. Imagine Independence Day without any of the excitement or thrills. It was really, really boring, and I was really disappointed because I thought the concept, it sounded like it was going to be really, really high concept, like intellectual alien invasion type movie. Nah, it was just a really, really dull alien invasion movie. And at number 1, I'm putting Pet Sematary. Stephen King films, generally speaking, because of the It films, have been knocking it out of the park for the last couple of years. We've been treated to some really, really good ones in recent years, and this was not one of them. I mean, if I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the first Pet Sematary, but the potential there is definitely there to make a really, really effective and scary horror film. For me, it took too many liberties with the story and switching things about. The only good thing about the film was John Lithgow. Other than that, painfully average, really dull lead, and just not that scary. So I was desperately disappointed with this one. So there you go, guys. That is my top 10 most disappointing films of 2019. like I say, many of those might be on your worst films of 2019, but trust me, oh, I've seen far worse than that. When we get round to doing my top 10 list of the worst films of 2019, yeah, there is no comparison really. But every one of those films on that list, in some degree, I was looking forward to, and I was let down by all of them to varying degrees. There's some films on that list that I don't think are bad films. The Men in Black film, I don't think it's a bad film, and others, they're not terrible films. I just expected far more from them. And I was really let down for the most part by them. So yeah, thanks for watching as always, guys. Let me know in the comments what you would have in your top 10 most disappointing films, and stay tuned for more top 10 lists leading up to the start of 2020. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time on Screen Stars.